To start to understand the energy statistics, I think everyone in each country should understand what the exact figures are for heating, cooling, electricity, and also for mobility. These are the figures typically for the Netherlands, so a Dutch household, which typically is about 2.2 people in a household. Here you see that in terms of megawatt hours, we use about 31 megawatt hours per household, just for domestic purposes and travel. Now in the future, when we don't have any natural gas anymore, in our case we would have to shift to electricity, which would mean that heat would be provided by heat pumps, for instance, which would then lead to a decrease of the primary energy, but if of course the heat pump is still provided by grey power, as we call it, so coming from coal-fired plants or other fossil plants, then it's still not very good, and demand will increase a lot. In that case, the total electric demand for a household, for their home, is decreasing, but again, it's completely electric now, so we need more power to help us out. Also with cars, if we switch to electro engines, which may be 4 times as efficient, it means that it will become all electricity to be produced. And of course, if we don't do it in a sustainable way, then it's still quite a lot. This means that if we shift to an all-electric society, a typical Dutch household, to provide them with the current amenities, it would have to have about 10 megawatt hours, so 10,000 kilowatt hours. And if we don't do it sustainably, it will still mean 23.1 megawatt hours of primary energy, which is, if you look at and I'll try to point it out. If you look at the original demand, you see that it's 7 times almost more than what the current demand is. So this is a concern, of course, of the government and energy companies. So it's very important to shift to renewables in that sense. Now, if we look at the next slide, I don't think it is doing something. Yeah, okay. It starts with individuals' energy, and well, I'm one individual, so let's look at my own situation, just to be honest. I should tell you, I used to live in Amsterdam. This was my home in Amsterdam. I commuted to Delft when I was working there already, and that means that I shifted from traveling by train to walking or cycling right now. I'm quite close to the university. And my current house, which is not on the image here, but can be seen here to the left-hand side, was constructed in 2004, so it has high energy standards, you could say. But it's twice as big as it used to be, so it's important, of course, to think about energy at all. Then it's all electric already. There's no gas connection, so we have a balanced heat recovery system for ventilation. We have a heat pump system with a whole block, and this preheats warm water, which is additionally heated electrically, which is of course not very efficient, but the heat pump itself of course is. And then we have more electrical devices. So this is my own home. What you don't see is that the floor is actually the roof of a shopping mall. So in that sense it's quite interesting in an urban context. This was my energy usage when I started, which is, as you can see, 2,000 kilowatt hours more than what an average Dutch household has, but of course my gas use is 0, but I have to pay for heat from the heat pump system. Now, I took some different measures, LED lighting, energy-saving lighting. I switched some things differently with installations. I added PV on the small roof that you see upstairs. And then I also used curtains because of the big windows that I have. And curtains, of course, as you may know, is easy insulation, which is also flexible. So the energy use has gone down a lot. As you can see right now, it's gone down to about half of what it used to be. Also heating demand has gone down, so it saved me a lot of money. Of course I had to invest in it, but well, you invest things when you have the money. So in that sense, it's my next investment would actually be like a solar collector or more PV, but which is difficult because I don't have much roof left. I also buy green power, as you can see. So I actually am carbon neutral, but I'm not energy neutral. So this is, I'm not fossil free, as you could say. Now also travel is interesting because I used to travel a lot by train, so that has gone down a lot. I used to bike a lot to and from stations. As you can see, it was a factor of 10 more than what I do nowadays, which of course leads to becoming fat. So I have to eat less now since I live in Delft. And there's a camper van I mainly use for holidays. So I don't use as much car than normal people do. But as you can see, if you look at the quantities, we talk about 30 gigajoules as opposed to 1 gigajoule of electric power for trains and 14 megajoule, which I use in terms of food to bike. So in that sense, my total energy demand for traveling is this. Now an interesting thing, and that's because of the webinars also, flying. Interesting part to look at, because people were asking me, yeah, you talk about your own situation, but you fly a lot for all these conferences. Well, these are the figures for a plane, and it depends, of course, if it's full or not, and if it's flying intercontinental or just in Europe. And if you compare it to a bike, a train, and car, you see that if you use a car not efficient, just by one person, actually flying is not that bad. But of course, the travel distances are much bigger. Now, national travel I do by public transport, so that's not bad. In 2011, I didn't fly so much, so it was very limited, only 3 megawatt hours. That's not really too bad. But 2012, also thanks to the CESPI 2012 conference in Sao Paulo, it has gone up considerably. And to give you the comparison, this is more than 5 times the energy I use for my home, and this is 2.7 times all energy I use normally in the Netherlands. So this goes to show that flying and avoiding flying is so important. I could say I only fly for my work and not for private business, private reasons, but then of course we should also take into account offices and so on. So it's a complicated comparison. But to round up this, privately I still need this 17 megawatt hours, which is actually better than the 30 megawatt hours that is average right now in the Netherlands. So I'm going in the right direction, but it's still more than what I'm actually allowed to in the future, the 10 megawatt hours. So energy neutral really is a challenge, and that's why it's one of the important themes of W116 CRB's commission. And also another lesson is, of course, we should hold more webinars and not seminars across the world. Every now and then, of course, you really need to see, to touch, to kiss people, but every now and then it's much better to do these webinars. So I'm very happy with the initiative of CIB.